I used to think silence was peace. Now I know it breathes. It started 3 nights after I moved into the new apartment. The kind of place people describe as cozy, though it always felt like it was holding its breath. At first it was little things. The fridge hum changing pitch, the floorboards creaking where I hadn't stepped. But that 3rd night I heard someone whisper my name, not through the walls. From inside the room, I remember freezing mid-step, my phone flashlight trembling in my hand. The whisper came again, softer, almost inside my ear this time. You shouldn't be here. I didn't sleep. Every light stayed on till dawn. I told myself it was exhaustion, imagination, maybe even my phone glitching. But the next morning, when I found the photo frame on the floor, the one I hadn't unpacked yet, I noticed something wrong. It wasn't cracked. It was open. Someone had slid out the picture of my parents and replaced it with a photograph of me asleep, taken from the foot of my bed. I didn't report the photograph. Who would I even tell? Someone broke into my apartment just to take a picture of me sleeping. It sounded ridiculous even to me, so I did what lonely people do. I convinced myself it meant nothing. I shoved the photo into a drawer, pushed the frame face down, and went about pretending my life was normal. It wasn't. That week, I started noticing the rhythm of my apartment. Every place has one. The soft hum of the heater, the groan of pipes, the distant shuffle of someone above. But mine had a heartbeat. At first I thought it was the plumbing. A faint, slow thud that came from inside the walls, like water hitting something hollow. But it only happened when I was still, when I held my breath, when I listened. Thud, pause, thud, I'd move, and it stopped. On Friday night, I came home late from work. The city was asleep under a thin fog, and my hallway smelled faintly of dust and metal, old building things. I unlocked the door, flicked on the light, and immediately noticed my kitchen chair had moved. Just a few inches, but it scraped across the tile like someone had dragged it halfway out. I stood there staring at it, telling myself it must have been me that morning. Maybe I'd bumped it with my bag. Still, I couldn't shake the image. That chair facing me, waiting. I made tea. I scrolled my phone. I told myself I was being paranoid. But at exactly 2:47 a.m., the sound came again. Thud. Not from the wall this time. From under the floorboards, I dropped my mug. The sound of ceramic breaking was too loud. It didn't belong in the silence that followed. My chest tightened. Every part of me wanted to run, but something in that sound, something familiar and deliberate, made me stay. I knelt. Pressed my palm against the wooden floor. There was warmth, then a whisper, a man's voice, muffled, faint. Don't look down here. I jumped back so fast I hit the table. My knees shook. I wanted to scream, to call someone, anyone. But my phone was in the other room, and the whisper had come from beneath me. The heartbeat came again. Stronger now. Thud, thud, thud. It matched mine. For a while I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching the phone, trying to decide what to do. The walls seemed to lean closer. My reflection in the mirror didn't match the light. It looked a half-second delayed, like it was waiting for me to blink. I thought about leaving, but where would I go? It was past 3. The streetlights outside flickered and the city looked emptied out, a photograph of itself. So I did nothing. Around dawn, I finally slept. I dreamed of someone standing at the foot of my bed, not moving, not breathing, only watching. When I woke, sunlight hit the floorboards just right, and I saw them. Faint scratches near the edge of the bed, like fingernails. I told myself I'd imagined everything. People who live alone have to lie to themselves sometimes. Otherwise, the silence eats you alive. I went to work. I smiled at my coworkers. I pretended not to see how the reflection in the break room window moved before I did. That night, I came home to find my front door unlocked. I froze. I never leave it unlocked. The apartment was cold. The air felt wrong, heavy, damp, like someone had just exhaled and was waiting for me to notice. I checked every room. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was moved. Everything was perfectly, disturbingly normal, until I reached the bathroom. The mirror was fogged. The shower hadn't been used. And in the condensation, drawn by a single finger, were 3 words: "Still watching you." I dropped my phone. The lights flickered. And from the hallway, I heard it again, that slow, measured thud, now coming from inside the walls. Thud. Pause. Thud. Only this time it didn't stop when I moved. I stopped sleeping properly after that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it. The slow, deliberate thud somewhere behind the walls. Always in rhythm, always patient, sometimes faint, sometimes close enough that the sound vibrated through the mattress. I moved my bed to the other side of the room. It didn't help. The noise followed. By the fourth night, I had developed a routine. Earphones in, volume up, lights on. Music didn't help. The sound slipped through, a heartbeat underneath the songs. I kept telling myself I was imagining it. That's what loneliness does. It invents company, but I couldn't ignore the mirror anymore. Every morning, there were new streaks across the glass, as though someone had dragged their fingers downward. 5 parallel lines, not missed, not scratches, grease, skin. I wiped them away. They came back. On Sunday morning, the hallway smelled like bleach and something sweet, metallic. A cleaner was mopping near my door. He was thin, gray-skinned, maybe 60. The kind of man you barely notice until he speaks. You just moved in, right? He said, not looking up. Yeah, a few weeks ago. He nodded slowly. Top floor's quiet. Used to be busier. Used to be. He met my eyes for the first time. His irises were the palest blue I'd ever seen. People don't stay long up here. I forced a laugh. That's supposed to scare me. No. His tone was flat. It's supposed to warn you. He turned, pushed his mop down the hall, and didn't say another word. That evening, I found something taped to my door. An old newspaper clipping, edges yellowed and curling. The headline read, "Tenant found dead in locked apartment. No signs of entry." I scanned the article. Same building, same floor, room 4C, mine was 4B. The details blurred as I read. The tenant, a man in his 30s, had been discovered after neighbors reported a repetitive knocking sound coming from his apartment for 3 nights. When police entered, they found him on the floor beside his bed, eyes open, expression frozen, as though staring at something just behind the wall. Cause of death, undetermined. I wanted to laugh. Or scream, or both, but I just stood there, feeling the edges of the paper tremble in my hand. Someone had taped it there, someone who knew I'd find it. That night, I dreamed of the man from the article. He was lying in my bed, staring at the ceiling, whispering something I couldn't hear. When I leaned closer, his lips moved again. "You hear it too?" I woke up gasping. The thud was back, closer than ever. Thud, thud, thud. This time, there was another sound beneath it. A voice, muffled, rhythmic, like a chant, repeating behind the wall. I pressed my ear against the plaster. The words were faint, but I caught them. Still here, still here, still here. I stumbled back, heart hammering. My reflection in the window seemed darker, its eyes lagging half a second behind mine. My hands were trembling, but I typed out a message to the building management anyway, to buildingoffice@harpercomplex.com. "Hi, I'm in 4B. I keep hearing noises in the walls. Could maintenance please check if there's an animal or broken pipe or something? It's constant." I hit send. No reply. 2 days later, a knock at the door. A man stood there, uniformed, tool bag in hand. He introduced himself as Arthur, maintenance. His face was tired, polite, but his eyes flicked around the apartment as though expecting something to move. "Got a report about sounds in the walls?" he said. "Yeah, it's been happening at night." He tilted his head, listening. "Now?" I shook my head. "Not right now." He knelt near the baseboard, tapping lightly. "Old pipes," he muttered. "Sometimes the insulation shifts. Sounds like breathing if you're not used to it." I tried to laugh, but it came out hollow. "Right, pipes." He kept tapping, moving along the wall, then stopped. "What is it?" I asked. He frowned. "There's space behind here, not just wiring. Hollow cavity, like someone sealed it up." "Why would anyone?" He held up a hand, pressed his ear to the wall. His expression changed. "There's something." "What do you mean, something?" He stood quickly. "I'll have to come back with tools." "Need permission from the super?" "When?" "Tomorrow. Don't stay here tonight." He left before I could ask more. I didn't leave. Where was I supposed to go? That night, the thudding stopped. The silence was worse. It stretched so long and deep that I began to hear my own pulse in my ears. I turned on every light, tried watching TV, anything. The quiet pressed down until the air itself seemed to hum. Then, tap, tap, tap. Not a thud. Not heavy, like fingertips brushing the inside of the wall. I stared. The sound followed me from room to room, always behind, always just out of reach. It was trying to match my footsteps. "Who are you?" I whispered. The tapping stopped. Then faintly, "Still here." Morning brought no relief. The manager finally replied to my email, short, impersonal. "We've reviewed your complaint. The previous tenant in 4B also reported similar disturbances. We conducted an inspection at the time. No structural issues were found. Please avoid tampering with the walls or flooring." No structural issues, but someone died in here. I decided to find Arthur myself. The building's basement housed maintenance offices, a concrete maze lit by flickering fluorescents. The air smelled of oil and mold. I found a door labeled maintenance room, authorized personnel only, and knocked. No answer. I pushed it open. The room was empty. Tools scattered. Lockers open. On the far wall, something caught my eye. Pinned between schedules and safety posters was a photograph. 4 people. Maintenance staff. One of them was Arthur. I leaned closer. There was something written on the back in jagged handwriting. He heard it too. That night, I didn't even try to sleep. I sat in the living room watching the walls breathe. The shadows stretched too far. The air was wrong, warmer near the corners, colder near the door. I started recording with my phone just to prove I wasn't losing my mind. Minutes passed. Nothing. Then, faintly, the camera caught a distortion, a subtle movement behind me. I turned the playback volume up, a whisper. "Don't look down here." The same voice. I dropped the phone. The floor thudded, and then silence. A pause that lasted forever, until the sound returned, but not from the wall. From directly under the couch, I ran. No plan, no thought, just instinct. The hallway lights flickered as I reached the stairs. Every step echoed like footsteps following just half a beat behind me. When I burst into the street, the night air felt too bright, too still. I checked into a motel across town, told myself I'd return for my things in the morning. But sleep didn't come, because when I finally looked at my phone again, the screen lit up with a new video, one I hadn't recorded. It was from inside my apartment, a single shot. My empty bedroom. The camera slowly panning toward the bed, and then a whisper, faint but unmistakable. "You forgot something." The video ended. I went back the next day against every instinct I had left. The apartment was quiet. No smell, no sound, just light filtering through the curtains, falling across the bed where I used to sleep. I packed quickly, but as I moved the bed away from the wall, something caught my eye. A section of the baseboard, cracked, half-rotted. Inside the gap, something glinted. I reached in. My fingers brushed paper, a photograph, old, faded, and water-damaged. It showed a person, a man, sitting on the edge of my bed. Only the face was scratched out, violently over and over, behind him on the wall. I could just make out something written in marker, barely visible through the grain of the photo. "Still here." I dropped it and backed away. The sound started again, faint but steady. Thud, thud, thud. Only this time it wasn't coming from the walls. It was coming from the floor, and when I looked down, the scratches had returned, fresh. Perfect. This next section is the climax, 2,700 words of true horror stories from people who lived alone. The story now turns from dread into confrontation. The protagonist's fragile sense of reality collapses as the horror manifests physically and psychologically. Dialogue becomes raw, short, and desperate. Narration becomes disjointed and sensory. The horror feels inevitable, closing in, unstoppable, and intimately personal. For this climax, I've chosen the supernatural haunting path. The previous tenant's presence never truly left, and the entity is tied to the building's structure, feeding on isolation itself. The protagonist discovers that loneliness is the key. It doesn't follow people. It grows where no one answers back. Climax. True horror stories from people who lived alone. I stopped counting the nights. The light through the curtains had turned gray, a constant dawn that never quite became day. My phone clock glitched, skipping seconds. The thudding never stopped anymore. It had rhythm now, like something learning how to breathe. I should have left. But you can't leave something that's inside you. I called the police once. The officer on the other end listened, silent, while I tried to explain about the noises, the photographs, the emails. When I finished, there was a pause. Then the voice said, "Sir, there's no tenant listed at that address." I hung up. The call log disappeared seconds later. The signal bars faded to nothing. I sat in the middle of the floor and listened. The sound behind the walls changed, from thudding to dragging. Slow, heavy, wet, something pulling itself closer. I whispered, "What do you want?" For a long time, nothing. Then, to be seen, the air turned thick, metallic. My reflection in the window blinked when I didn't. The floor trembled, subtle at first, then steady, like someone was pacing beneath the boards. I pressed my hands against the wall. It was warm again, and beating. I don't remember deciding to open it. I just remember grabbing a hammer from the kitchen drawer, pulling the dresser away and hitting the plaster where Arthur had tapped. The wall cracked easily, layers of paint flaking like dead skin. Dust poured out in dry gray clouds. Behind the first layer, insulation. Behind that, darkness, then a smell. Rot and rust and something sweet, like old perfume. I pushed my flashlight into the hole. A tunnel. Someone had carved a narrow passage between the walls, a ribcage of wood and wires. The beam caught movement. Not fast, just swaying, something hanging. I leaned closer. It was a chair. And on the chair, a body, or what was left of one. The man's face was gone. Skin shriveled and stretched, mouth open like he'd died mid-scream. His hands were nailed to the chair's arms. One finger was still twitching, dried tendon pulling taut with every slow thud. Not alive, but still moving. Something crawled behind him, small, pale, like a hand without an owner. It scuttled into the darkness before I could scream. I stumbled back, hit the opposite wall, and dropped the flashlight. It spun on the floor, throwing wild shapes across the ceiling. That's when I saw the writing, all along the inside of the wall. Overlapping, carved deep. I was alone. I was alone. I was alone. Each phrase stacked on the next until they blurred into one endless pattern. The heartbeat in the wall quickened. Mine followed. "Why are you showing me this?" I whispered. The voice was closer now, not through the walls but beside me. A whisper pressed against my ear. "You took my place." I turned and saw him. The man from the photo. The one with the scratched-out face. He stood half in shadow, half in the doorway, his outline trembling like static. Skin gray, mouth too wide, eyes hollow and black. "I'm not supposed to be here," I said. "You're dead." He tilted his head. "So are they." "Who?" He moved closer. The light flickered, bending around him like gravity. Behind him, the walls rippled, breathing in and out. Every tenant, every room, every silence. "We don't haunt places. We become them." His voice broke into a chorus. Dozens of whispers layered together. "We become them. We become them. We become them." I stumbled backward. My shoulder hit the open hole in the wall. Something cold and slick wrapped around my wrist. Pulling. I screamed and yanked free, falling against the floor. My phone buzzed beside me. A notification. New video. "You're not alone, MP4. The thumbnail froze my breath, my face staring directly into the camera. I hadn't recorded it. The video played automatically. In it, I sat on my bed, whispering to someone just out of frame. My own voice, low and broken. "I can hear you now. You don't have to knock." The me on screen looked up, eyes black, lips trembling. Then it smiled. "Your turn." The camera turned slowly, facing the wall. From behind it, the real wall in front of me, came the sound. Thud, thud, thud. Then the wall burst. Hands, gray, boneless, endless, tore through the plaster, reaching. Some grabbed the furniture, pulling it inward. Others brushed against my skin, cold and papery. Every touch burned. I ran for the door, but the handle twisted under my grip, turned itself, locked. The lights blew out. Darkness swallowed the room. The air filled with whispers. "Don't leave us. We're lonely. Stay. Stay." The floor buckled. I fell to my knees. My palms sank into something wet, not blood, not water. The surface pulsed under me like skin. The walls stretched outward, melting, reshaping. The whole apartment pulsed like a lung. I could feel the heartbeat inside it, slow and enormous. I crawled toward the window. The glass had fogged again. Words appeared from the other side, written backward, glowing faintly. "Still here." I smashed the glass with the hammer. Cold air rushed in. The world outside looked wrong, too still. The street, the buildings across, even the clouds, unmoving, colorless. As if painted, behind me something whispered, "Go ahead. You'll just come back." I turned. The man stood inches away now, the darkness clinging to him like smoke. His face was shifting, melting, pieces of mine appearing where his should have been. He reached out. His hand passed through my chest like mist, but the cold inside me was real. It spread, my breath crystallized, my vision flickered. "You understand now," he said softly. "We were alone. Now we're together." The walls started closing in, literally. The edges of the room bent inward, furniture sliding into the center. I crawled backward, trying to stay ahead, but the floor tilted, down, toward the hole. The tunnel was open again, black and deep. Something in the dark whispered, "Come home." The thudding turned to screaming wood, cracking beams, tearing metal. I clawed at the doorway, fingers bleeding. The apartment was swallowing itself. My body hit the floor hard. My head rang. For a second, everything went silent, the kind of silence that hums. Then, faintly, my phone buzzed again. A voice message. From Arthur. I pressed play. "If you're hearing this, you need to listen. The walls aren't hollow. They're full. This building's alive. It keeps them, the ones who die alone. Don't look for me. I'm already part of it, static." Then in the background, a slow, familiar thud and a whisper. "He told you not to stay." The walls cracked open. A flood of dust and black ash spilled across the floor. The entity, the man, whatever he was, stepped forward, eyes hollow and endless. His mouth opened wide enough to split the world apart. "Please," I whispered. "Don't make me," he smiled. "It's not up to you." Then he walked into me. Every sound disappeared. Every color drained. I felt weightless but not free. I could see everything. Every apartment, every empty room, every person staring into their own silent corners, not realizing what was there. The thing inside me whispered, "You'll keep them company." The floorboards closed over my legs. My arms sank next. My skin fused with the walls. I screamed, but no sound came out. The last thing I saw before the dark took everything was my reflection in the broken glass, smiling back, whispering words I couldn't hear. When the new tenant moved in 3 weeks later, they said the apartment felt warm. The manager smiled, handed over the keys, and on the first night, as they unpacked boxes in the quiet, they paused. From somewhere inside the walls came a faint, steady sound. Thud, pause, thud. The new tenant's name was Mara, 32, freelance illustrator. Moved in on a Wednesday with 2 suitcases, a sketch pad, and a cat named Juniper, who refused to enter the bedroom. Mara didn't believe in ghosts. She believed in late rent, unreliable clients, and caffeine. The apartment was a good deal. Too good, really. But she didn't ask why. She liked the quiet. The first week passed without incident. She unpacked slowly, made the space hers. Plants by the window, art supplies on the table, fairy lights along the wall. She joked to her sister on the phone, "If this place had a heartbeat, I'd call it perfect." Her sister laughed. But Mara noticed Juniper's ears twitch at that word, heartbeat. The cat stopped sleeping in the bedroom. Every night it sat at the threshold, staring at the corner near the bed. Sometimes when Mara turned off the light, she swore she saw the faint outline of someone sitting there. Not solid, just a density in the dark. The air felt thicker in that spot. She told herself it was exhaustion. Freelancers don't sleep, they nap between deadlines. On the 9th night, Mara woke to the sound of scratching. It came from inside the wall behind her headboard, slow, deliberate, like nails tracing wood. She turned on the lamp. The noise stopped. Juniper hissed, low and trembling. "Mice," Mara whispered. "Old building." But the next morning she found her coffee mug on the floor, shattered. The strange part wasn't the broken glass. It was the condensation ring on the counter beside it, perfectly circular, as though another cup had been sitting there. When the maintenance worker came by to inspect the wiring a few days later, he paused near the bedroom. "Cold spot in here," he said, rubbing his arm. "Probably bad insulation," Mara offered. He didn't respond. Just stood there listening. "What?" she asked. He frowned. "You don't hear that?" "Hear what?" He shook his head. "Never mind." But as he left, he muttered something under his breath. Mara caught only one word. Again. The dreams began soon after. Always the same. She was standing in her apartment, though it looked different. Walls breathing in slow motion, lights pulsing like veins. In the dream, she could hear whispers beneath the floor, overlapping voices that repeated one phrase. "Still here. Still here. Still here." Each time she woke, her sketchpad was open on the desk. Pages filled with frantic drawings she didn't remember making. Faces without eyes. Doors half open, something pressing from behind a wall. Mara tried to ignore it. She worked through the nights, headphones in, music loud. But between tracks, the silence had texture, like static too low to hear but heavy enough to feel. And then came the messages. It started as a spam email. Subject line, "You're not alone." She deleted it. Then another came, identical subject, different sender. Then another. Each message contained a single attachment, a photograph of her apartment. Taken from inside, she went to the police, phone trembling in her hand, but the officer frowned as he scrolled through her inbox. "These are blank," he said. "What?" He turned the screen toward her. Every image was black, but when Mara looked again later that night, alone in her kitchen, the photos were back, her bed, her desk, her window, and in every one, a shape standing in the corner. She slammed the laptop shut. It didn't help. The screen flickered back on by itself, displaying a single sentence. "We all lived alone once." Days blurred. Time in the apartment felt strange. Loops of sunlight that ended too quickly, nights that never deepened. She began to forget small things. If she'd eaten, when she'd last left the house, whether the lights were already on, or if she had turned them on herself. The neighbors above complained about noise, but she hadn't played music. By the third week, Mara started talking to the walls. It felt less insane than silence. "I don't believe in ghosts," she whispered one night, "so you can stop trying." The reply came immediately, a soft, almost amused whisper. "Then what are you talking to?" Her breath caught. Juniper hissed and bolted from the room. Mara didn't sleep that night. She sat on the floor, knees to chest, eyes on the crack forming along the baseboard. It was widening, slow but certain, like something pressing from the other side. At dawn, she packed a bag and left for her sister's. But by afternoon, she was back. She didn't remember deciding to return, just that her car had stopped halfway, and when she blinked, she was standing in her living room again. The front door was locked behind her. The keys still in her hand, she started keeping her phone camera open, recording everything, talking out loud so she could hear herself think. "This is Mara Klein," she said into the mic. "It's October 12th, I think. If anyone finds this," a knock interrupted her. Not on the door, from behind the wall. Her hand trembled, but she kept recording. "Who's there?" A pause, then a voice. "Her own. You are." The camera dropped. The recording ended. No one heard from Mara after that day. Her sister filed a report, but the police found the apartment empty. Her belongings neatly arranged. Her sketchpad open on the desk. Last page filled with black ink strokes that, from a distance, looked like walls closing in. No sign of struggle. No sign of her cat. Only one thing out of place. A note taped to the bedroom wall, written in shaky handwriting. "Don't live alone." Months passed. The unit stayed vacant. But buildings don't like emptiness. Eventually, a new tenant moved in. A man, this time mid-30s, quiet. He told the property manager he'd just gone through a breakup and wanted a fresh start somewhere peaceful. He asked about the smell in the hallway. The manager smiled tightly. Old pipes. On his first night, as he unpacked, he noticed something strange. A faint heartbeat in the walls. He thought of plumbing, of course, or maybe his imagination. But then his phone buzzed. An airdrop request from an unknown sender. "You're not alone." He declined. The request appeared again. He turned off Bluetooth. The request appeared again, and from behind him, a whisper. "It's your turn." Months later, a true crime podcast covered the building. They called it the Harper Complex phenomenon. 5 tenants in 7 years. All reported strange noises, hallucinations, and disappearances. No evidence of foul play. No bodies ever found. Each case began the same way, a noise behind the walls. Each ended with the same message found written somewhere inside the apartment. Still here, experts argued whether it was mass hysteria or carbon monoxide leaks. No one agreed. But one detail stayed consistent across every account. Each tenant lived alone. If you stand outside Harper Complex now, it looks ordinary. Brick facade, cheap windows, A for rent sign that never comes down. At night, one window always glows faintly, the top floor, left side. Sometimes passers-by say they hear someone talking inside. Sometimes they hear 2 voices, sometimes only one. If you get close enough, you can hear the rhythm. Not quite a knock, not quite a heartbeat. Thud, pause, thud, no one lives there anymore. But the walls still breathe, and sometimes when the wind stops, you can hear a voice whispering through the brick. I used to live alone too.